A lot of people talk about anxiety and OCD like they're basically the same thing. They are not. They can overlap. They can happen together, but they're not the same inner pattern. And that matters because we blur them together. We stop understanding what a person is actually trapped in. So let me make this simple. Anxiety is usually about threat. OCD is usually about doubt plus a ritual. So while anxiety says run, OCD says repeat. And that is a big difference. And once you see that, a lot of behavior that look confusing starts making sense. Now, this is not a diagnosis. It is just a clear map. So first I'll show you why people get these mixed up. Then I'll show you what anxiety is really doing. Then I'll show you what makes OCD a different kind of trap. So why do people confuse them? From the outside, anxiety and OCD can look strangely familiar. Someone avoids people, someone checks the door 3 times, someone looks tense, someone looks distracted, someone looks exhausted, someone looks trapped in their own head. And from the outside, people flatten all of that into one label. They're anxious. But the real question is not just what the person are doing, it is why they're doing it. Because 2 people can look equally distressed while following 2 very different inner patterns. That is where people get confused, that they judge by their behavior. But the real story is inside the behavior. So let's separate the patterns. So this is what anxiety is really doing. Anxiety is often the feeling that something is wrong, something is about to go wrong, or something bad could happen if you're not careful. For example, a social situation, your health, making a mistake, being judged by others, or losing control. And sometimes it's more general than that. You just feel on edge. Your chest tightens, your thoughts speed up, your body feels tense, you overthink everything, you feel restless and exposed, feel like you're bracing for something. And because that feeling is so uncomfortable, your life starts bending around it. You avoid the room, you avoid the phone call, you avoid the eye contact, you avoid the event, you avoid saying what you really think. And this is not because you're weak, because your whole system is trying to protect you from something that feels dangerous. Even when from the outside, it does not look dangerous at all. So here's a simple image. Anxiety is you getting too sensitive for danger. It goes off too fast. It treats discomfort like danger. And once it goes off, your whole body wants out. And that is why anxiety says, get me out of here. Now, let's make it real. Say someone has social anxiety. They're invited to a gathering. Nothing dangerous is happening. But as the event gets closer, the mind starts building a case against what's going on. What if I say something stupid? What if I freeze? What if I look awkward? What if people can tell I'm uncomfortable? What if I embarrass myself and think about it for the next 6 months? Now, the body joins in. Fast heartbeats, sweaty hands, tight stomach, restlessness. So the person starts looking for the exit before they have even arrived. So they cancel, or they go and leave early, or they stay physically present but mentally halfway out the door the whole time. So that is anxiety. The mind is trying to create distance from discomfort. So anxiety is basically saying run. So what is OCD really doing? Now, OCD is not just being neat. It's not just liking things in order. It's not just being someone who likes things clean. That is one of the most shallow ways people talk about it. OCD is usually much more disturbing than that. Because OCD often involves intrusive thoughts, images, fears, or urges that crash into the mind and do not leave quietly. And then because those thoughts feel threatening or unbearable, the person feels driven to do something in response. Sometimes that response is visible. Checking, washing, cleaning, repeating, arranging, touching, avoiding. Sometimes it's invisible. Counting in your head, repeating a phrase silently, reviewing a memory again and again, trying to cancel out the thoughts, trying to feel fully certain, trying to get complete reassurance in your own mind. And this is where OCD starts to feel different from anxiety alone, because the person is not just afraid. They feel bound to a rule, bound to a ritual, bound to what if, bound to the idea that if they do not do this properly, something terrible, irresponsible, disgusting, or irreversible could happen. And yes, a part of them may even know it sounds irrational, but that does not automatically free them from it, because OCD is not just about logic. It is about what feels intolerable not to do. So here is the image of OCD. It's like a lock that never feels fully turned. You check it, for a second there is relief, then the doubt comes back. Was that enough? Did I really do it properly? Should I do it one more time just to be sure? Now let's make that real. A person leaves the house, they lock the front door, they take 2 steps away, then the thought lands? What if I didn't really lock it? What if I only think I locked it? What if someone gets in? What if something happens and it is my fault? What if I could prevent it? So they go back, they check the lock. For a moment, there is a relief. Then the doubt returns. But did I actually check it properly? Was I paying attention? Should I do it again? So they do, and again, and again. And now it is not longer really about the lock. It's about trying to reach a feeling of certainty that never fully arrives. That is OCD. Not just fear, a loop. A thought, a ritual, a brief drop of tension, then the thought again. So again, ironically. OCD says repeat. So what is the cleanest way to separate them? So here is the easiest way to separate anxiety and OCD. With anxiety, the person is often trying to escape a feeling, a situation, or a possible threat. With OCD, the person is often trying to neutralize fear by doing something specific. A ritual, a rule, a check, mental review, a silent phrase, a search for some certainty. Anxiety moves away. OCD just keeps circling back. Anxiety says, this feels dangerous. Leave. OCD says, this feels dangerous. Fix it properly, then do it again. Then maybe you can relax. That is why they can look similar on the surface, but feel very different on the inside. One is trying to flee danger, while the other one is trying to satisfy a rule that never stays satisfied. Now, I can hear some of you saying, but OCD causes anxiety too, so isn't it basically the same thing? And that is a fair question, because yes, OCD often comes with intense anxiety, sometimes panic level anxiety, sometimes disgust, sometimes dread, sometimes guilt, sometimes a horrible sense of responsibility. So yes, anxiety is often inside OCD, but OCD is not just a feeling of anxiety, it is the structure that forms around it, the obsession, the doubt, the ritual, the brief relief. Then the doubt again, the ritual, the pattern is what matters. Because once that loop gets strong, a person can lose huge parts of their day to something that makes no sense to anybody else. Not because they are dramatic, but because the loop does not leave them alone. So this is the myth people usually get wrong. The biggest myth about OCD is that it's just about being tidy. It is not. For some people, OCD has nothing to do with neatness at all. It can be contamination fears. It can be checking. It can be intrusive thoughts about harm, and usually very repeating. It can be mental rituals nobody else can even see. And this matters because when people turn OCD into a joke about color coding a bookshelf, they completely miss the suffering underneath it. This is not always quirky. Sometimes it's brutal. Sometimes it's hours lost. Sometimes it's skin damage from washing. Sometimes it's relationships strained by reassurance seeking. Sometimes it is someone who looks calm on the outside but is fighting a war in the head that nobody can see. That is not the same thing as liking your desk organized. And this is also where anxiety and OCD can overlap. A person can have both. A person can have OCD where anxiety is one of the loudest parts of their experience. A person can start avoiding life because the obsessions and compulsions have become so exhausting. So yes, they can absolutely go hand in hand. But overlap does not mean sameness. That is the key. So what is the human cost of both? This is the part people often miss. They see the behavior, but they don't see the cost of the behavior. They do not see how tiring it is to live in a body that feels on edge all the time. They do not see how exhausting it is to doubt your own mind. They do not see how much life gets squeezed when they're always escaping something or repeating something. That is the human side of this. Not just symptoms or labels. It's a smaller life, a more restricted life. A life where ordinary things start feeling heavy, complicated, and hard to trust. And that is why it matters to talk about this properly. Because once you understand the pattern, you stop calling everything just anxiety. And you stop reducing OCD to a personality trait, like trying to hit the bricks when you're walking to school or something. So let's make the recap very simple. Anxiety is often a feeling of threat, tension, worry, and the urge to get away. OCD is often the pattern of intrusive thoughts, followed by compulsions or mental rituals to create relief, certainty, or safety. Anxiety says, something feels wrong, I need to get out. OCD says, something feels wrong, I need to do something again and again until they feel safe enough. This is not a perfect explanation, it's not a diagnosis, but it's a much clearer map of what it really is. And if you take one thing away from this video, let it be this. Two people can look equally distressed and still be trapped in two very different inner worlds. One is trying to escape the alarm and the other one is stuck in the wood. And both are painful, both are real, and both deserve to be understood properly. And if this video helped, the next place to go is this: intrusive thoughts versus actual intent. Because that is another area where a lot of people panic over the wrong meaning. And if anxiety or OCD is taking over your daily life, getting support from a qualified mental health professional really matters, because understanding it is one step. Getting help with it is next. So in the description down below, you can find an anxiety test and a 20% off code if you want to talk with a professional psychotherapist. So that's everything for this video. Click on like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and please tell me what you think about this video and if you learned something from it. And until then, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.